There are 37 miracles recorded in the Gospels, most of them in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. John's Gospel, which we heard today, is different. John only reports 8 miracles, 6 of them uniquely amongst the evangelists, and all of them at much greater length. Why is that? Well, at the very end of the Gospel, John says, "If all the things Jesus did were written down, I suppose the world itself could not contain all the books it would require." So he was selective, as every writer is. But unlike many, he was clear about the basis of his choice. "I've picked these signs," he says, "so that you may come to believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and have life through believing in his name." Sure enough, there's a pattern to the miracle stories John chose for us. For one thing, each addresses a very particular human need. Newlyweds face humiliation after running out of wine at their reception. A father is anxious about his little boy dying of fever in a distant town. A paralytic has long tried to scramble into a miracle pool to no avail. Men at sea in a storm are terrified of drowning. There's a guy who's physically and spiritually blind. And a man has died and the family are grief-stricken. Others have fished all night and caught nothing. In a few stories, John illustrates how Jesus addresses the whole range of human needs: physical, emotional, intellectual, social, and spiritual. For he cares about every aspect of human fulfillment. Some have noticed that John's miracle stories come in threes, as if to underline 3 times what they tell us about Christ. 3 miracles of healing demonstrate that he's the physician of bodies and souls. 3 of feeding, that he is the bread of life. In 3, darkness is replaced by faith, for Jesus is the light of the world. 3 more demonstrate that he is the way, the truth, and the life. And 3 tackle life and death, as Jesus is the resurrection and the life. Another way of reading these miracle stories is in terms of the virtues of faith, hope, and love. In some, people's faith elicits Jesus' miraculous response. Mary has faith that her boy can fix the hospitality catastrophe at Cana. The official believes that he can heal his son even from a distance. And Martha confesses Jesus, the Messiah, the Son of God, come into the world, even before he raises her brother. In other stories, it's Jesus' miracles that elicit people's faith. With respect to Lazarus, it's clear that's precisely what it's about. So too, a paralytic and a blind man both testify that Jesus is their healer come from God. A haul of fish leads the men to exclaim, "It is the Lord." And when he heals the official's boy, John records, the man himself believed along with all his household. Faith, then, is at the heart of all Jesus' signs. The faith to seek and recognise a miracle, or the gift of faith received through witnessing Jesus' power and in turn giving witness to it. And the faith that the retelling of this story is intended to stir up in us. There's plenty of hope and love in these stories too, but I won't tease that out today. It's enough to note that everyone recognised Jesus' love of Lazarus, and that after the haul of fish, Peter professes his love for Christ 3 times. Which brings me to the miracle of the loaves and fishes. Following John's pattern, it begins with human need. The crowd are hungry, and Jesus delivers food in abundance. But their deepest hunger was spiritual, as John indicates by mentioning the Passover and people searching. Jesus addresses their emotional need by gathering them, their intellectual need by teaching them, their physical need by feeding them, their spiritual need by sanctifying them. As he sates them with food, he demonstrates that he is the bread of life and true food in answer to their spiritual hunger. We respond with faith, hope, and love. The people's faith is real, if somewhat misguided. They follow Jesus because they believe in the signs he has worked and are hoping for more. Seeing his new sign, they proclaim him a prophet. And there's devotional love here also, as they decide to make him their king. Yet some elements of today's story mark it out as different to all Jesus' other signs. For one thing, it's bigger. Most of the other miracle stories are rather intimate encounters between Jesus and a single person, a family, or his friends. The wedding reception at Cana was bigger, no doubt. But even country weddings don't have 5,000 guests. For a multitude to witness a miracle is really something. It made such an impression that uniquely of all Jesus' miracles, it's recorded in all the Gospels. Clearly, we should sit up and pay attention. Another unique aspect of this story is that Jesus worked it with the active participation of the apostles. While Jesus took the bread, blessed and thanked, and even helped distribute, he directed the apostles reverently to gather up the fragments into 12 baskets. And so just as the miracle of the loaves introduces Jesus' discourse on the Eucharist, so his associating the 12 with this miracle introduces them as its future priests. If all Christians are called to share in Jesus' ministry, some are ordained to particular service of the bread of life. A third and final difference about this miracle is how much Jesus gave. Our word charity comes from the Latin caritas, meaning an active, giving love. Christ could have told the ladies to bring a plate or had a whip round amongst the men to fund the feeding. But no. Instead, he told the apostles, the church, to find amongst themselves the wherewithal to feed the multitude. Gifts he would multiply abundantly. So they gave all the bread and fish they had, holding none back for themselves. Jesus too gives himself totally. He is the bread from heaven, his flesh given for the life of the world. To work his wonders in us, Jesus gives us himself, not just figuratively, but really, totally, and always. The COVID-19 Delta restrictions are preventing most people from receiving the bread of life. Fortunately, priests can still bring the sacraments to the sick, and people can join the Mass through live streaming, and at least make a spiritual communion. Throughout this time of lockdown, we must, in Paul's words today, bear with one another charitably, in complete selflessness, gentleness, and patience. But we hunger for that day when we can gather as a multitude once more. Hunger for that day when we can sit and hear our Eucharistic Lord. Hunger for that day when we can be fed by him, the bread of life.